are you going to keep my kids safe? And how are you going to do it? Well, first I want to tell you, by the way, it's not just your kids. It's also my kids, which is really important. With that being said, of course they're going to be safe. We're going to have continuous surveillances indoor in all our buildings and outdoor, all throughout the campus. And those cameras are live in the front office and accessible on our phones. Not your phones, but our phones. And all our entry doors are locked and secured during school hours and after, of course. Only faculty, administration, and volunteers can access the building, and volunteers would have to sign up ahead of time. All our volunteers, our faculty, whether they're administration or teachers, will have to have level 2 background checks. And we, of course, undergo regular fire department inspections, and we're providing our staff with information on what to do during emergency situations, and the kids will be provided that information as well. Okay? Another question that I'm sure you might have, unless you've already been on the website, you've probably seen it, but I wanted to clarify the reason it's such. In regards to tuition, so as you can see, we've promised to hire highly qualified specialist teachers who have limited classes to 12 kids, and with that being said, we're a nonprofit organization to begin with, meaning we're not looking to make any profits out of this tuition. So maybe some of you have noted that we're not the cheapest school out there, and maybe you found another private Christian school that is a bit cheaper. But as you can see, we've strategically set our tuition fees actually at the minimum necessary just to cover our operational costs. And some of the remaining costs, like most other private schools, by the way, they do that too, they're sustained by generosities of donations, whether it's from the congregation or in our case, the diocese. So we understand that private Christian education is still an investment that you have to take, and it requires families to have to maybe budget differently. But thankfully, we still know and we still planned to accept the Step Up program, which is now offered to all families regardless of income, which is about $8,000 or up to $8,000 per student. We will be offering sibling discounts, and the church, just like the church teaches us to offer our first fruits, we are committed to offering in-house income-based scholarships up to 10% of our students. But nonetheless, as a math teacher previously, I still want to break this down a little bit further. So after the $8,000 scholarship, the remaining, there is $6,000 if you're the top tier tuition, which is 3rd through 5th. If you're at, or 4th through 5th, if you're at that top tier tuition, you are left with $6,000, which can be paid monthly with our payment plans. And this brings the cost down to $600 a month. And if you really want to think of it weekly, it's $150 a week. Don't think I've found daycare to be close to that cost yet. So I truly believe that if we could see this as a true investment, as something that you probably haven't found elsewhere with the size of classes, quality of teachers, and orthodoxy integrated, I hope you see the value in the school. All right, so maybe you're like, I'm sold, sign me up, how is this gonna work? All right, by now you might be curious about our admission process, so let me explain. Our applications will be completely online through our school information system, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a little bit, what does school information system mean. But the application link will be sent to you first through the email that you've signed up with. So if you came in late and you have not put your email, don't worry, at the end of the presentation, that link or the QR code will be up again. This QR code is not it. This QR code is for the questions. So at the very end, you'll be able to input your email again, and you will be receiving the application link first, and then afterwards we will put it on our websites for you to share to other people so they can go ahead and complete the application process as well. The application is pretty straightforward. It's going to ask you about student demographic, education history, and you will have to fill out a parent questionnaire, but this is specifically to help us understand your kid more. It is not to try to see if we want to have a student who might struggle with mathematics in our school. We absolutely understand that kids will have differentiated needs. We just need to know what they are so we can better help them. You're also going to be required to sign the parent and student handbook after you've carefully read it. which will outline basically what I've said today, but a little bit more on like our discipline policy, which I'll cover a little bit more in a little bit. Okay? And after the application process, we actually get to meet with the family personally, because you're wondering, okay, well, is the application, that's it, that I've signed up for the school? No, there's a differentiation between application and then enrollment. Application is you're applying, and then we meet. The administration team meets with the family and the students, and we have an honest conversation about whether this is the best school for your child. Because maybe your student needs, or your child needs a little bit more resources than we currently can offer. Maybe they need one-on-one aid at all times. Maybe whatever it is, at this point you can get the picture. It is a wholehearted conversation that we get together, we meet the child, and we see if this is the best fit for both of us. Once that happens, and we send you an enrollment letter via the email, we will tell you whether you get to have an enrollment link, or we truly advise for a school that can offer an education that best fits your child. Okay, with that being said, as you can see, there's a lot of parent involvement. It's almost like you have homework too, with the application process and meeting us in person. But don't worry, we've made your involvement very easy. We've actually implemented this program. It's a school information program called FACTS. It's extremely user-friendly, so it allows you to truly be able to see your kids' pictures throughout the week when teachers post them, assignments, homework, whether they have academic notes or behavior notes. You'll be able to see the events, the instructional calendar. I mean, I'm a fan. I might actually try to go sell this product to other people because I'm so amazed at what it can do. It also has your tuition management on it right there. We also adopted, which was an option that we can select, to be able to text in alerts. So that's another thing that you would be able to receive if there's ever an emergency, which that rarely happens. But if there is ever an emergency, there will be a school-wide alert on your phone that will be sent. That happens also if the school is going to be closed because, I don't know, the hurricane that's coming that actually ends up you're now stuck at home with the kids for a day, or I don't know, like whatever it is that we're telling you with the performance, like please remember their costumes, like don't forget. We're going to be able to reach you on your phone, but we won't bombard you, don't worry. All right, so maybe you're thinking, oh wow, they're really technology heavy. Yeah, for the adults that can manage it, but rest assured, our policy is at school is that we truly believe in a hands-on and avoiding excessive screens as much as possible. Because we believe in critical thinking and creativity in students, but don't worry, we also know that we're in the 21st century and students have to be exposed to technology the correct way. So we will have supervised technology access in classrooms. We will make sure that they're only used for educational purposes and they're being prevented from any inappropriate usage. With that being said, it's very important to note that personal devices, however, will not be allowed at school. There will be exceptions to families that might need to, know when where their kids are at for safety purposes. For example, if you're having your kid be picked up by other family members or by friends, or you've, coordinated carpooling, so you want to know where they are, that's acceptable. However, their phones will have to be inside their backpacks on silent until the school is over. Maybe you're wondering, oh, good luck. How are you going to implement any of these crazy rules that you're putting? Well, we have a plan. Let me tell you that it's very important that students and parents understand that our school will have rules and expectations. And all of these are meant to foster a positive learning environment. However, our disciplinary approach recognizes that each student is unique, they might need tailored behavior plans, and we're committed to maintaining communication with parents at all times. So, our primary focus will be on positive reinforcement. What does that mean? It just means that we're going to be rewarding desired behavior to encourage the repetition. So when we see a student doing what they're supposed to do, we're going to encourage them. No, I don't mean that we're going to be giving them gifts or treats. That's actually rarely needed in children. It does include, however, verbal praise, behavior, academic achievement recognitions, or other positive stimuli to help foster a student's sense of accomplishment, self-esteem, and intrinsic motivation, which is super important, rather than keep giving them gifts just because they did what they're supposed to do. Okay? This is called a proactive approach in classroom management, meaning that you're attempting to control the behavior before it even takes place. Any negative behavior would then being dealt with would be the active approach. So what would we do then? Because of course you're wondering, well, this is all the utopia, right? This is the expectation. But what happens if my child is not listening today, right? Well, there are a variety of different things that we're going to be implementing as disciplinary measures, but here's how it starts. It can start with a conversation with the teacher outside of class time, even if that means they have to come out of a class they truly love, like PE. Even if they have to skip recess and for a moment to discuss the situation with their teacher. Once the problem is being talked with a student and a teacher, if it gets resolved right away, you might not actually hear about it. And it doesn't mean we don't include you. It means that those could happen so often, it would be almost bombarding you, right? Like, hey, by the way, when you stood up and you were dancing in class like that, that probably was not the best choice. What do you think? And all of a sudden this kid's like, yeah, sorry, I'm not gonna do that again. All right, great. You probably won't hear about that, right? But if the kid is like, actually, I didn't think that was a big deal, and I like the way I did it. Well, I might have to talk to your parents because I don't think they would agree. And then the parents will be brought into conversation. Of course, at this point, we're expecting parents to be like, they did what? That's not acceptable. We're going to talk about it at home, and we'll see how we can discuss this problem. Let's say the parent says, what's wrong with that? Of course, that would surprise us because they've already signed the student handbook and they understand our rules and expectations and they support us. But let's say that still takes place. This is when the tiering goes up. And then that's when we could bring in administration to talk about the situation. This is classical biblical conflict resolution. And you're thinking, what does the Bible have to do with this? Well, actually, Jesus explained it very clearly how we should deal with problems. If you have a problem with your brother, go talk to him directly. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what you're going to teach your children, and we would teach our teachers. If you have a problem with a kid, go talk to them first. If you have a problem, a kid with a kid, go talk to them first, right? Now, if they're not able to resolve this problem amongst themselves, whether it's teacher to student to student, this is when a witness needs to come in, right? And we usually call you guys the witness, right? A parent would come in and get involved. And then if the problem is still not being resolved, that's when the church would get involved, or in this case, we would call it the administration. Now you're wondering, okay, the problem is still a problem. What are you going to do? How is the administration going to handle it? There's multiple different strategies that we can use, whether it's a tailored behavior plan for each student individually, whether it's unfortunately having to take privileges away, or whether it's simply at this point an understanding that this child will have to see serious consequence and spend one day away from school. And then we can talk about their return, right? In absolutely worst case scenarios, which is rarely going to happen, I can't assure you this, we would have to dismiss students if parents are not on the same page and they don't see that our school expectation is important. All right? Well, what's one of our school expectations? And no, it isn't the biggest and most important one, but it is one of them. So for example, our dress code. Our school will have a dress code. Students will be able to be dressed in school colors. They'll have orange, blue, or white polos. And I don't know about your kids, but my kids like to be comfortable when they want to run and play and have fun. So we did choose to have the parents pick the pants, shorts, or skirts that they believe their kids will be most comfortable in. instead of having the really tight, fancy pants like I'm wearing right now, and I really can't wait to dress a little bit more comfortably. So I can only imagine if they're children, right? So, but they do have to stay in navy, black, khaki, or gray. And of course, as I would expect, they would be clean, they would be appropriate length, and they would not have rips. Some of the things that would also be expected from our students would be that nobody has piercings except girls' ears. Boys would keep their hair short up to the collar, and we'd expect that elementary students don't really need to dye their hair. And they can wear hats, but only outdoor during PE class, not during class, because of course in the sun it might be a little hot, even though we will have covers. And then of course, even though we rarely need it, you might have to put a jacket on these kiddos. So when you do, they just have to be not having any inappropriate language or images on them. Okay? Food. Some of you might be wondering about the situation with our food. At this moment, we do not have a cafeteria on campus, so parents will be required to pack their kids a wholesome snack and lunch every day. It's important to note that we do not allow any candy or sugary treats or drinks on campus. And if you're wondering, or if you're thinking it's going to be tricky for your kid, remind them it's school rules and it's not your fault. Sometimes it's easier said, blame it on the school, and all of a sudden you'll be so surprised how much they will listen. The reason why, and if you're wondering why we're so picky about that, research has clearly shown a direct link between nutrition and students' ability to learn. So if we're going to be expected to teach kids and have them be learning, then we want you to help us have them be in the best state. So of course, wholesome breakfast, and then a good snack and lunch at school. And then what if you're wondering, but like, what about birthdays? It's not fair. Like if we want to celebrate their birthday, don't worry, we have an alternative. You can send little favors, and there's only 12 in the class, so you're really not investing much. And you can, plan with the teacher that they have first. And of course, we want to celebrate them too. We just won't celebrate with cupcakes or cookies or sugary drinks. Okay? Okay, before we move on, and this is almost the finale, to answering your questions, because I've answered some of my questions, but I'm sure you have more. I'd like to conclude by going back to our main mission and vision of educating students with the glory of God. We're not simply wanting to provide them information that they would memorize from textbooks, but we want them to have a wholesome education where they get to truly experience all of God's goodness through their learning process. This is why we'll be adamant in providing them with opportunities to serve the community, whether it's through food drives, toy collections, or even packing snacks for children in poverty. Students will not just be taught about kindness and compassion, but they'll be able to participate in activities, events that show them to practice such virtues. Our school will be carefully designing learning excursions, known to you as field trips. Why do I call them or give them such a fancy name? Well, it's to differentiate them from just a social gathering, but highlight them as students still learning, but they're doing it outside of the classroom.